So here we're going to be drawing some leaves, different style leaves, obviously. These leaves are different. So to make it make sense, we're going to start with a rose. So let's start with a rose. Welcome everybody to the Ink Hustle Tattoo TV with Jess, and I normally post work of tattoos that I've done, detailed design, I post artwork on my tattoo account, the Ink Hustle Tattoo TV. But in this case, we're gonna be posting some artwork. And I wanna just draw different types of leaves because I know everybody seems to be drawing different types of leaves. And maybe to get a better perspective of what are the good type of leaves out there that everybody prefers to draw. Of course, everybody has a certain style or preference. I normally have a good amount of leaves in my arsenal. Like, I like drawing different types of leaves every time I'm doing a different design, just so I don't keep it so consistent with the same stuff. But I don't know, it seems like nowadays everybody likes consistency, and that's what makes the world go round in terms of the people that follow you. They like to see the same trend. For some reason, they're very used to watching the same type of content play it out over and over and over. And I'm the type of person who likes to draw different type of things, different content. I get bored with the same old stuff. So, you don't have to judge me on my rose. I'm just drawing this for the purpose of, giving it a few bunch of leaves in different formats, different styles. So that's what we're gonna do. But yeah, normally leaves are, nice and big and very bushy. So let's do that. Let's give it some leaves. So now that we got a rose here, we got our little rose, and we're gonna give it some, let's give it a little bit of shadow just so it could. And I'm using a pen here. I normally draw with a tablet. I don't draw with pens too much these days. I did that for a long time when I was locked up. All I had was a pen or a pencil. And I spent countless hours drawing with pens and pencils. And when I got out, man, I never wanted to go back to pens and pencils for that one reason. So I started getting into digital artwork because I was so fed up with drawing with pens and pencils. The work was very tedious. The process was very slow. And, you can do some great pencil and pen artwork. But at the end, it doesn't really hold its value. You spend 10, 15 hours drawing on paper with a pencil, and I don't really believe that it holds its value based on you're drawing on a paper. The paper is the main purpose, the main reason. The artwork may have value, but because you're drawing it on regular piece of paper, the paper can always tend to break apart, blur out, fade, get a water drop, get ruined. So it doesn't hold its value because of the material. So you're in jail, you're locked up, fine. You can draw all you want, train your hand, train your technique, your methods. But for me, it was very tedious work. In fact, it hurts me to draw. It hurts my wrist to draw. When I used to draw for hours, I'd spend countless hours drawing with pencils. But now I'm so used to tattooing that when I sit down to draw with pencils and pens, it takes a toll on my wrist and my little my motions, So that becomes a little tough, and that's why I don't really draw with that no more. But this is just for the purpose of giving this a little bit of a detail, you know, just giving this little rose a little bit of detail. I know it's not a nice rose, guys, but the purpose of this design is just to give it a little bit of something for the leaves to cling on to, you know, so they're not just floating leaves. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of shading. Like I said, I did this for many hours, countless hours, and I would take my time. So tedious work, you know. The process was very tedious, and now just, I'm kind of, you know, I'm over it. Like, I did it so long. I did it for so long. Kind of over it, you know. Sometimes you barely want to tap on the paper, but like I said, if you create a beautiful masterpiece on paper, you could maybe sell a print. I don't know, sell a print for a few cents, a few bucks. I don't know. But if you're gonna decide to do that, you know, the paper itself, the artwork itself, I don't believe it has value. I mean, I don't even know if there's any artists out there that sell artwork laid out in pencil and pen and still hold value, or still sell it for, you know, unless it's a big sheet or a sheet that is actually like a material, a paper that's very very how do you say it, very good quality paper, I guess. Paper that has good quality, that's able to withstand the age of time, which is the reason why I believe this type of artwork doesn't have any value, because the paper won't stand, you know. Sure, you could try to protect it, put it under a sheet or under a cover, clear cover or whatever, but in the end, it's just a flimsy paper that if you ever bring it out, you know, it's gonna get a wrinkle. It's never gonna be the same, you know. You fold it a certain way, you'll get a wrinkle. So that's the problem with paper, you know. Papers have their own problems, but maybe you can get one of those what do you call those papers, archive type of paper, where you can, like, it can, you know, last 20, 40 years and still hold a good quality to it. But if you're ever drawing on pencil and paper on a regular sheet, like printing paper, you know, it's pretty much pointless. That's why I don't do it so much. But anyway, I'm right here just drawing this for the purpose of giving my my leaves a unique touch. So here we go. Here's a leaf. You know what I mean? This rose is going to consist of many, or several different types of leaves. The ones that I usually go with, you know what I mean? So basic form right here. This is a basic leaf. For anyone that wants to get into tattooing, you know what I mean? This is a basic leaf. And I've seen some artists that like doing like these little lines. Sometimes they double it. Sometimes they create a little space. So this would be like the most basic form leaf. So, you know, I mean, this kind of went sideways with it, but look, no big deal. So what we're gonna do is just give it some shading, you know. One side should be shaded. One side should be shaded like this. One side is shaded from the line outward, and the other side from the outer line inward. So this will give you the impression right here. All right, you know what I mean? You do this, and then voila. So this is a regular leaf at the most basic form. I know it's kind of ugly, but just bear with me. This is just a leaf at its most basic form. And right here, we're gonna draw another leaf. This leaf's gonna have a double line wedge right here, double wedge. And this leaf is gonna have more of a real feel right here. And since it's got a real feel, we're gonna shade it likewise, you know. I know back in the day I used to draw leaves with a double wedge line, you know. And I used to, you know, kind of keep these as my traditional leaves. So I would draw, you know, draw them like this, give it a little bit of spiky ends, make the ends a little spiky, you know, kind of like natural real leaves, I guess. And they came with a little bit of shading that, you know, like that. Which kind of gives it that cool little look, you know what I mean? Like almost of a, now, this is cool. So, all right, so let's give it another leaf. Now, the reason this is gonna be looking weird is because it's got a whole bunch of different leaves, all right? So bear with me. This leaf is gonna have different or tinier lines, you know, close together. These lines are closer together, close to each other. So in the end, you'll kind of get an idea, what type of leaves do you like to apply to your rose? I think this is very important. Not a lot of people talk about leaves. These are very important because when you draw a rose, you know, a rose is pretty much a blob design that holds different shades and different corners. And if you draw a rose without leaves, it will be a encapsulated blob. The cool thing about the leaf is that it branches out and it spreads the rose further out and giving it more of a bigger feel, a field of space too. So, you know what I mean? So, if you can give your leaves a nice detail, they're pretty much a major part of the rose. If you do leaves without a rose, you know, you're just focusing on the rose. That's great, but at the end, the leaf is what makes the rose stand out because the leaves is branching out. It's flowing with the skin, you know. It's giving it a bigger flow, a bigger look. So here's another leaf. And in the end, you'll kind of figure out what type of leaves you enjoy doing. So this one has a more of a natural feel. You see how I did this side right here? So let's go back to this. I know I kind of did a quick, sketchy little look right here, but let's do this. Since this one, and you get what I'm doing here, right? I'm giving this quick little feel right here, guys. So bear with me right now. I'm gonna just make these leaves stand out a little bit better because this is a double wedge leaf with the inner part being nice and white. There you go. Now, because I also want to do one that, you know, it's almost contrary to this one. Let's draw one with a black out, what do you call this? The wedge, the middle wedge or the middle line, right? The dividing space right here. We'll give it a blackout one. And from here, we'll be able to decide which leaves are our favorite. We'll kind of give it like a little bit of a, it kind of folds in at the middle, gets all pointy. So here we go, guys. We're doing leaves. Today we're doing leaves. I want to show the many different leaves. Now, of course, there's millions and millions of leaves and millions of forms to make a leaf. But I'm going to show you the ones that I enjoy doing sometimes, you know. So I'll shade the tips with my tattoo machine. I'll shade the tips like this. So I'll make the tips dark. Sometimes darkening in the tips will make the tattoo stand out a little bit better, make the leaves darker than the rose, giving it that standing out feel, you know. Now, bear with me, guys. This is a sketch, so you want to get all judgy, that's fine with me. I don't mind, but this is a quick sketch. Obviously, if I wanted to make a better quality artwork, I would definitely spend a lot more time. Each leaf would probably take me, to create a good, nice, decent leaf, I would probably spend like between 10 to 15 minutes on each leaf, you know, just to give it the right shading with a pen or a pencil, right? But in this case, I'm just kind of trying to run through it because I got more leaves to do. And I could only make the video so long before, you know, we move on to something else. So here it is. Here's one little nice leaf. So on this one, you know, I like to shade one edge like this. But the thing is, you know, I mean, do you like a darker middle divider or the white center? All right, so I got 4 different leaves already. And let's do another leaf. In this leaf, we're gonna make it big and wide. It's gonna be a big, wide leaf. All right. So in this leaf, we're gonna just make it big and wide. Oh, and we're gonna give it this cool roundish look. Cause you ever see roses? Some roses come with this big, roundish, leafy looking, and they have a little style. So, you know, you see how I curled it up? You see how I pointed it up outwards like that? Cool. So let's do that. And we'll thicken out the bottom part right here as it thins out at the very edge and thickens out at the very base. So we'll just do that. And then for this one, we'll start the lines like this. Bam. And they all meet up at the very base of the folding. Now there's there's a lot of different ways to do a leaf, and I'm just showing you a few of the ones I know how to do. That way, when you draw your rose or you do your tattoo or design that you're working with, and you're working with a rose or a leaf, you'll be able to kind of, you know, figure out what's your favorite, you know, what kind of leaves you want to go with, because it, you know, the leaf will have to do a lot with what the design would look like. You know, you probably got a pretty nice, cool rose, but then your leaves are crappy. So, you know, it's good to practice with your leaf design, because, you know, different flowers have different leaves, but for now, we're just working with rose type leaves. You see how you kind of shade it outwards like that? So, you know, give it that little feel, dude. Like, they don't have to be super dark. Some people like doing light leaves. And when you have your machine, you can just give it a quick little dash pass. You know, you give it a quick little dash to fill in some of this shade, you know. Even if you're using your little liner to give it a peppered shaded corners, you know. Obviously you want your leaves to kind of stand out, so yeah, do that, guys, do that. And you can always go back to it. You know, if you got a little extra shading on one side, just kind of apply it to the entire base, or, you know, as long as you start off light, so you don't have to do something so crazy, you know what I'm saying? All right, so here's another leaf, right? And then we're gonna do, let's give it a little shading here. Okay, so that's, you know, like a little shadow cast. You know, sometimes when you draw your roses, don't forget to give it a shadow casting, because each petal, each rose petal is casting a shadow on your other petals, you know, so don't forget to do that. Is what gives it that cool look. So in this case, you know, my shadow casted, this petal right here is casting a shadow onto this other petal. And we'll just do this, you know what I mean? And then obviously we got another cast here. So, you know, overall, I'm just trying to put out some good leaves here. So this rose is gonna turn out pretty leafy, but then again, I'm going with a design, right, that includes leaves. Now, I've seen very many different leaves, so let's apply them, you know. Sometimes you got this leaf that looks like this, right? It almost has like a double wedge, or it dips once, kind of like half a lip, like lips, right? And sometimes they have a little fold here. So sometimes I've seen artists apply a fold. All right, so we got that leaf. We applied a fold. And then we got some of these lines that they apply to. And they like 1, 1, 2, 1. You know, and you kind of skip, and then you do like 2 little close-up ones. And then a close-up one, right? So they do that, and then they're like, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. You know, and that's kind of how they run it, and it's got that cool look. You know, it's got a different little feel. But this right here, guys, is actually not too bad, you know, not too bad for a leaf. Now, I'd give it some shadow, but I don't want to make this a dark leaf. All right, what other kind of leaves can I make? Since this one's casting a little shadow, let's do this. The softer, you know, if you can train with a pen how to create a soft touch to your design, you outline something and then you give it a soft shaded touch with your pen, and that's pretty much good practice for your hand coordination when you start to apply that on the skin, because sometimes the skin needs a very soft touch to create certain techniques and apply certain techniques on the tattoo. So if you can apply that, you know, the pen is a very good tool to use to train your hand for soft touch. You know, you can always tell if you have a soft touch, the line of your pen will show very soft. And of course, if you apply a hard one, the darker your pen line will be. So, you know, just keep that in mind next time you're doing a tattoo, that, you know, certain details require a soft touch. Depends on what your design is. And what a better way to practice with a soft touch than applying pen lines to a paper. You know, you're barely touching the paper. You're barely scraping the paper. So that alone will give you a good example of what your soft touch looks like. You know, this you with a pen, you're shading something with a pen, you're creating thousands and thousands of lines per second, and that just helps your hand coordinate and adjust your stroke to apply a soft touch on something. And the darker your design gets on paper in a pen, you know, that's very visible that you will have to train a little longer to get a softer touch even. So keep that in mind, guys. So soft touch pen is a good tool to soften your hand. It's very tedious work, but it's worth it. You're training your hand to do things that you normally find it very hard and difficult. You know, I've been drawing for 20 years and it's not easy, man. It's still not easy. Drawing with a pen is always tough. You know, even if you have years of experience in tattooing, practicing once in a while with a pen on paper will sharpen your skills back to what you should be. You know, it's like getting a recalibration, you know what I mean? So a lot of people say they don't need it. You probably don't, but in case that you do, you know, you find it useful to draw something, you know. So let me draw another leaf here. Let's see, what kind of leaf should I draw? I'm running out of options here, guys. So let's see, I got a circular one. Let's draw a teardrop one. Teardrop. So this is a teardrop. You ever seen a teardrop type of leaf? Those are kind of cool too. They got this little pointy edge. And teardrop leaf usually looks like a little teardrop. It's round at the bottom, at the base, and pointy at this end. So teardrop leaf. Here we go, guys. I got my line set in. And and you can appreciate them however you want too. So, you know, this is like the line is a bowing line, so it bows towards the end of the stem. So that's a nice little, you know, and you can shade it however you want, but usually if I'm gonna shade it, I like some darker tips, you know. Like I said, practicing with your pen will soften your touch. If you just practice shading with a pen on paper, it will definitely help you soften your touch, because every time you make a line stroke with pen, you know, you'll see where you're at. And you can always adjust that. So keep that in mind, you know. That's a little teardrop type of leaf, right? So it's hard to choose what to go with, you know. This rose will have very many different leaves. It'll have even the skinny leaf. Sometimes it comes with a little skinny leaf like this. Skinny leaf, and even a secondary attached to the base type of leaf. So I don't know what to call this one, guy, but I've seen these a lot. They look like little pin shape leaves. You know, they're shape of a pin. And you can line them up like this if you like, or you can make them solid black. You know, if they're tiny and thin, like these ones, you can just make them solid, dude. Like, fill them in. Fill them in pretty black, you know. You could give them some line if you want, or just shade it darkly, I guess, since they will stand out better, since they're smaller and thinner, more tapered. You can do some lines and then shade them in a little darker. and the whole shape will stand out overall instead of like having design inside, you know. The overall shape will stand out better. You're doing some thin little leaves. But as long as you keep that centerpiece a little darker, it shouldn't look too bad. So here you go. And to be honest, man, it's a matter of preference. Like, what kind of leaves do you prefer on your rose? Nobody really seems to talk about that, so let's talk about it, man. What kind of leaves do you like on your rose? And nobody really tells a client that either. When you're drawing a rose on a tattoo, nobody says, hey, what kind of leaf should I apply? And, you know, to be fair, you don't have to, but it's good that you know what type of leaves you are interested more in, what leaf will make your rose stand out, type of design you're going with, you know. So I got these leaves. I got the round teardrop leaf. I got this double kind of a dip leaf. And some people do the I've seen some people do the almost like a blank leaf, where they leave them blank, you know. So there's millions of leaves out there, guys.